If you went back in time and were designing LoL from the ground up, would you keep the support role, or do you think it was a mistake? Do you think it makes for a better experience? Or was it necessary for one of the players to do the duty of being the weakest part of the team and way behind everyone else the whole game? Artux, I would, actually. If you look at many games out there, you'll notice they all have supports. All is a strong word, but like, you know, there's support characters in many games. MMOs have healers, right? Dota has supports. Not all of them are league supports. You know, Lina is a support, but Dota has the low-income supportive role, right? A number of FPSs have supports. Overwatch, Team Fortress 2. One of the things about a class-based game is one of the core classes in a class-based game is a supportive character. Now, the challenge with that is supportive characters just by their nature will be less popular. That doesn't mean they're bad. And so what I mean by this is, let's say your game, paint time, we have carry players and support players, right? And a very naive approach to the game would be, okay, we know that there are more carry players than support players, so we should design our game to only have carries because carries are more popular. And so you do that, and when you do that, what you've done is your game is now less popular because these players won't play it because you don't have a character for them, right? So if you only design your game for carry players, even though carry is more popular, you've actually like left a portion of your potential players out to dry, and the result is they just won't play the game, which is, you know, fine. It always depends on like what game you're making and who you want to play for. It's not important that every game is played by literally every person, right? But like, this is the cost here. Whereas if you make a game that has carry players and carries and supports, suddenly you've captured this whole extra piece of the pie here. And so you get all these extra players playing your game because your game is now more diverse in the types of fantasies it offers. And so the important thing about the support role is that despite the fact that it is less popular, there is a very real portion of players who would not enjoy your game unless it had supportive style characters in it. And that is the challenge with the support role, is like, as an example, if we deleted support tomorrow, I'd stop playing because I'm a support main. I like support, right? And so the challenge with the support role is, how do you make support fun enough and have enough variety such that there are a lot of people who like playing it and enough people that like playing it that you have good queue health without necessarily like betraying like what it's about. Because like, here's one of the ways I can make support more played: just make it a carry role. Right, but then again, you lose all these folks. And so instead, you get to think about like, what ways can you make support fun for more people while still preserving what like a lot of the support players would like about it. And like, that's the challenge. That's the hard thing to do. And support genuinely is a tough problem in League because, you know, just a lot of people don't like it. But simply deleting it, I think, would like leave a large portion of our players out to dry. There's a lot of people who like really only like playing support. My personal take on it is, in terms of League of Legends, is the thing then to do is make sure that there's enough variety in the support role that if you're a more carry-minded player, you still have options. This is why we made characters like Thresh and PYKE and SENNA, and this is why we buffed LUX so that she works as a support. One of the big reasons for doing that is it turns out there's a lot of players who want to go play support, are willing to play support, interested in playing support. They just don't want to play enchanters. They don't want to play like the dumb support tanks. They want something that has a bit more outplay. They want an assassin. They want a mage. I think Dota tends to do this very well, where there's a number of supports in Dota who support by murdering, right? Like, if you're running Lina as... Is Dota the terminology like... Do they use it in like terms of like income tiers? It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is that what it is? But like, if you're running like a Lina support in Dota, what you're doing is trying to one-shot your opponent and get them behind. Whereas you're running a Crystal Maiden support in Dota, you're still trying to one-shot your opponent, but like, you know, you're giving some more like utility in CC as well. And so my take on support is actually a good thing that characters like Brand are viable down there. It's a good thing that characters like PYKE and SENNA exist. It's a good thing that we buffed LUX for that role. And so I think there's always this constant challenge of how do you ensure some of the less popular roles are popular enough that you have healthy queues without like, you know, change them in a way that like the players won't enjoy. This is another thing that's like really important about when thinking about roles is there's a lot of ways to make a role more popular that would make it like less for the people who want to play it. And that's also dangerous, right? Like, or there's ways that are like to make a role more powerful, making it for the less for the people who want to play it. Like, it turns out that one of the reasons people play top lane is because they want to 1v1 you. And if they didn't want to 1v1 you, they wouldn't be playing top. They'd be playing mid or AD carry or jungle, right? And so one of the challenges, the constant challenges of balancing top lane is the nature of top lane makes it weak to some degree. And what I mean by that is top lane tends to be one of the weaker roles. But one of the reasons it's one of the weaker roles is because it's so isolated. But one of the reasons players love playing top lane is because it's so isolated. So you see like where the challenge comes from. And so there's a lot of changes we could do that could legitimately make top lane significantly stronger in ways that top lane players wouldn't enjoy. Same thing with support, same thing with AD carry. There's ways you can make a role stronger in ways that people would enjoy, and there are ways where we can make a role legitimately weaker than in ways that people would enjoy, right? And so that's just a constant balance thing. But anyways, like TLDR to the question is, even when a certain thing is unpopular, it doesn't mean it shouldn't exist in the game if what it is offering is different from the popular stuff. Some less popular things are very good for the game because they're just capturing a different group of players who wouldn't enjoy your game otherwise without them. And that's very, very important to think about when you're making stuff. This is like another thing where I think about with champions, where you might think, oh, so every champion should just be super popular. And I don't agree with that line of thought. I think it's important that we make popular champions because it turns out there's a lot of people who like Lux, there's a lot of people who like Yasuo, things like that. But it is also important at times that we make more niche champions, because at the end of the day, the type of person who likes a character like Urgot isn't gonna get what they want from Lux or Yasuo. That's not what they're looking for. And so if Urgot didn't exist in League of Legends, and we just had a Yasuo or Lux to replace him, I think legitimately there would just be groups of players who just would be less likely to find what they enjoy. And so I think it's important in terms of champion design to make a good mix of more standard, popular mainline thematics, and every once in a while a few niche thematics that really play to something that we don't offer anywhere else. Both are very, very important for a big game like League of Legends that inspires to have lots of different players who want to play and enjoy it. That's kind of the idea I have there. Isn't that conflicting? AD carries play the game to carry the game, not so their support would carry the game. Yeah, but I don't think you can have a monopoly on carrying the game, right? Like, I don't know. I think it is reasonable that sometimes the support is really strong. I think it's also really important that AD carries, can scale up and be gods, but I don't think it's unreasonable to have a support or two in that role that, especially in the early mid game, can deal damage and things like that. It's probably important that most of the time the AD carry tends to outscale and eventually gets really, really powerful in terms of range auto attacking. But I don't think it's unreasonable to have characters that from other roles can carry. It's always like a balancing act, right? Because if you're doing one thing for one class, you might be taking something away from another. But just depends.